SK Vibemaker.
SK Vibemaker, my interviews are hotter. You know we bring through the best special guests. We are not changing tradition anytime soon. And today, man, I've got a legend in the building, a veteran. You know, people say like legend, veterans, and they use these terms lightly. We ain't using these terms lightly today, man. We got the legend Craig David in the building. How you doing today, sir?
Bro, I'm very, very well, thank you. Firstly, I appreciate you. Them kind of monikers at the top of it. Real talk. I appreciate you, brother. You good?
Are you used to people sort of referring to you as a legend in the game? Are you comfortable? Are you at ease with that now? 22 years plus deep in the game?
Do you know what, man? It's love. The fact that someone will say legend, it just feels like only yesterday that I was dropping Born to Do It. You know what I'm saying? So, and I feel like that kid who's just like in a candy shop but been in it for like 22 years. You know what I'm saying? So it's love. I will accept it and embrace it and enjoy it. But yeah, it's like, who would have thought 22 years in the game so far? So it's incredible.
Did you have a plan at the beginning that you planned to be here this long? You know, some artists want to come in the game with the quick smashes, make some money, kick out, do other things. Did you think that you was going to be here 22 years plus later?
Do you know, I could never have like said like that I would be in it this long. I mean, I just wanted to I wanted to just sing. I wanted to perform. At them days, like, man, I had his Technics 1210s and had just finished making mixtapes and sell them at the local barbers. And next thing you know, it'd gone from 0 to 100. Man was like at Wembley Arena, 3 nights sold out, like back to back, thinking, whoa, mad things. Like it went so fast. But I have to say that if you genuinely love the music and it's something that you still get a lot of joy out of, you'll be in this till to your last days. You know what I'm saying? So it's blessings for that. And also I just genuinely feel like that kid again. I just feel like I'm just having fun making music, and then long may that continue. You know what I'm saying?
All right, this is a funny question I'm going to ask you. Obviously, we have people living in different parts of the world, and I feel like everyone knows who Craig David is. But maybe there's a person out there that comes to the UK and are not quite sure who Craig David is. How do you introduce yourself in 2022 when someone's saying, Craig David, what do you do? Like, how would you explain your career?
Wow. Great. That's a wicked question, though. I have to say, like, it's like to sum it up. I mean, it's like when you're doing a job interview, like, you know, be like, let me break it down. So I do. Do you know, I've got to say that I'd say that the common thread through everything that I do is R&B. Like, I grew up listening to R&B music. And even though, like, I've evolved and been able to write songs in my first album, which was the one that set the tone for me in 2000, had songs that, again, if this was like someone who just dropped in 2022 and is like, whoa, what are these songs? You may hear songs like Fill Me In or 7 Days, and you may not know who the artist is, or Rewind. But those songs will kind of set the tone that opened up doors for garage at the time, but then it moved into the early grime scene. The grime scene then moved into the drill scene, and then it's kind of moved into the rap scene. There's always kind of been there hovering, and now it's having its real moment of, we're here, we're established, we're not going anywhere. And America now coming to here for the answers to what's going on and what's the cool thing. But I'm just a man who loves melodies. I love R&B melodies. I can do them over any style of music. And my TS5 DJ sets, even though they lean more house and garage, I can drop 7 Days next to a dance record and they can still live in the same world. And I feel like that's probably my USP, is that I understand the assignment if it comes to slow jams and R&B, but at the same time, if you want a dance record that will go off at a festival, I'll know how to do that too. So I think that's kind of, how do you bridge the two, I think would be my USP.
Now, I know you're very humble, but I just want to ask you, with Chess, are you kind of owning the UK Pioneer label? Is that something Craig David would own? A pioneer of this current hybrid of music which is going on in the UK at the moment?
You know what's funny? I'm one of them guys, because it's just interesting, yeah, because there's a lot of the things that had to drop, like the terms, only because when I say it, it just sounds very egotistical. Like, and I know a lot of people say, but no, actually, you're just owning it. Yeah, you're just saying it as it is. I'll always let it be someone else to be able to say that if they feel that's what I've done and what I've brought through, then it's an honor to be part of it. For me, when I started off, I was a kid who just loved to make music. Little did I know that being a mixed race kid from Southampton, making garage records, having songs that then open the doors for people in other parts of the country and not so London centric or not so major city centric, it allowed people to be like, whoa, this kid's from Southampton. But Rewind is going off like it's like we've never heard anything quite like this. It's forcing its way onto onto commercial pop radio.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it was getting rinsed on specialist and on pirate radio stations. So I'd say that I'd like to feel like I opened up a way and a voice for people to be heard, and then people ran with it. Like we're a whole generation are just popping off, and they've got the ability to now let people see without there being gatekeepers stopping them anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Straight up. Let me touch on something that you just said there, which I feel like is important for a lot of people that have grown up like us in the UK, maybe first, second generation from the Caribbean. You was a mixed race young kid growing up in Southampton, not in London, but in Southampton. How did you navigate through that dynamic of being a mixed race kid growing up in the UK in the late 80s, early 90s? Sometimes when you're mixed race, black and white heritage, the white side might accept you. They might not accept you as much. The black side might accept you. They might not accept you as much. You might be in a grey area. How did you get through that dynamic?
Do you know it's I mean, again, wicked question, because like, I feel like we're in a time now where we can have these open conversations and kind of like sort of get underneath the hood of stuff and be like, okay, well, how was it? I have to say that my upbringing of, like I said, having a black dad and a white mom, and being able to ultimately not feel like I was like in the cracks of it. That's the one thing I'd say, just as growing up as a young kid, I didn't feel like, am I black or am I white? And I think there's that moment where people can go through that discourse of not knowing like their identity, when actually I am both. Like I have full empathy for everything when my dad speaks about like racism and talks about how he was when he came over, his parents came over in the Windrush period of time, and how deep-rooted racism was going on in the early 70s and 80s, which thankfully I didn't get to feel as much as him, but he paved the way, and I was able to now allow him to speak to me openly as a father to son, to say, Craig, you have no idea what it was like when I was growing up. Like, it's so different for you. But at the same time, what I love is like having a white mom, is that her acceptance and her understanding, her wisdom to be able to lean in and be able to nurture herself and understand about the culture and how people were being oppressed, and for her to speak her truth and stand up, which shows as a woman and as a white woman to be able to say like, listen, like, I'm not going to fall back into this. I can't fully have the empathy of how you felt, which is important. Can't be that, but I can actually talk about it. And I felt like it made me grow up as a mixed race kid to know that actually I have to be the middle ground here, that when things kick up into the air about whatever it may be, about ethnicity, it may be about black, white, it might be about race, it might be about religion. There's a middle path where we can all have a voice and we can actually find, is it right or wrong? Is it accountable? And let's just call it out for what it is and not feel like you're one side or the other. Because I can speak about racism easy and not feel like it's, yeah, but your mum's white. No, but if it's being racist, you're being racist. Then if it's not, you're not. And I think that's important for kids, because I don't want mixed race, any mix of race to feel in the cracks, because you're so not. That's the most important thing. You know what I'm saying?
So let's talk about obvious, Craig. You're linking up with a US-based R&B artist, transatlantic, both sides. How was this connected with Muni Long and making this song right here?
Do you know what I've got to say, bro? Like I've got so much love for her as a songwriter over the years. But then when I heard like Hours and Hours and I was hearing Time Machine, the beauty of social media, and I think this is what's changed from like way back in the day things where you had to kind of physically be in a place or meet the person. I literally just DM. I didn't DM. I actually sent a story on Instagram, just tagging the song, saying, Money, this is my tune. Next thing I get a DM saying, oh my God, like, I'm a fan of you. And then all of a sudden we start having this rapport. And I was like, okay, rather than it getting long and being like, you're in the States and I'm here and like, it never really happens. I got in the studio with an incredibly talented UK producer, songwriter called Mike Brainchild. And we started the bones of a song called Obvious. Sean Wonder, who's penning on that too, another amazing songwriter. I got so much love, and artist you already know about Sean Wonder. The guy's crazy. So then when I sent it over to Money, she was just like, wow, you guys understood the assignment. She came back with a verse like in 2 days. And I just love the way that she patterned her verse, because we sent it over with the kind of vibe of, you're out with your girls and there's some guy and you're trying to you kind of put it in my face that we maybe broken up, but you just want me to get back with you. And she patterned her verse in a way that was like, yo, my guy, I think you might not quite understand here. one, we're not getting back together. Two, the guy that you see me going out with, yeah, I'm moving with the guy here. You're the one telling yourself a story. This is a very guy thing, to be lost in your own little story of, oh yeah, she's trying to, like, you know, she wore that color and that was really, she wanted to show me that it was nah. I moved on. I was like, respect, money. You did it correct. And then
she got the assignment.
She understood it. And also the R&B, it's in that golden era of that era when I feel like 2000s R&B was a good time. And I feel like she's honoring that in her music now. She's not trying to do a chopped and screwed version. She's not trying to do a remix of it. She's like, no, I'm just going to do what it would have been like at that time. And people are loving it. You know what I'm saying?
Now, Craig, you are an artist based in the UK who has had success and impact in America. Your first 2 albums done very well there. How much of a challenge would you say it is for a UK-based R&B artist to penetrate the States and have chart success over there from someone who's done it themselves?
Do you know what it is? I mean, I'd say that the opportunities now are like, it's different. Before there was a lot of gatekeepers, and like you said, you had to physically be there. In the States, I was there for nearly a year, working all around all the different states to actually, which are all different from each other. You know, you do something in New York, it's very different than being in LA, and then you're in Chicago, and it's like all brand new again. Whereas at least in the UK, if something hits and it connects, it's hitting the whole of the UK in one. But now with social media and the way that you can put music out, things are global. You got a fat following, you got an eco bubble around your music that could be in a completely different country, that you can go and do a live show and all of a sudden like thousands of people are turning up to your shows. So I would say most importantly is the music. I meet people so many times and they're like, but I can't get my music out there. And it does not, like, there's always a reason that it's not connecting or it's someone else's fault. And all I can say is from my experience to say with Rewind, again, I was an unknown guy from Southampton who made a garage tune with the Artful Dodger, and it worked its way from pirate radio station onto commercial radio station and then became like what it was. It's the song. And it's
you don't think the relocating is important? Because, you know, there are artists who have relocated to the States and gained a lot more success than the artists that haven't gone over there. You don't think the relocating is important at all?
See, like LMA? Well, yeah, here's the funny thing is that, like, and having worked with LMA just before she released Boot Up, and we did a song called Talk to Me Part 2 on the Time Is Now album, which again is another R&B tune that I just love, and I love her voice. What happens is that you can for sure you can go to a different country, you can go to America, and you can be in a place that seems as that it has R&B or hip hop, it has categories that you can go in, and there's millions upon millions of people who will listen to that. But I would also say I see some artists that I'm like, if the talent that you're hearing in America was in the UK and you went on one TV show with that voice, it's finished. Like, but in America, it's almost like you can easily become part of the fodder. It's like, we got so many R&B artists out here. We got people who can blow. We got people from church who can blow like crazy. We're getting so you kind of have to play that thing of, okay, location is one thing, but is the song, and that's why I come back to that, my man. Like, Boot Up in America or in the UK, you could say, well, maybe the opportunities of getting that played were different in the UK, but the song itself on playlists and streaming, if you looked at it, it still would have gone. So yes, the opportunity of getting seen, you might want to feel like you want to be where people appreciate the music,
but the music has to be good.
It has to be good, man. Like, that's the thing. And the things that go, they go. The stats are the stats. The gatekeepers have been kind of removed out of are they going to playlist my song today? Are they going to do the tick? When a song is going off in a club, remember, like, as DJs, right? I remember there were songs that came out and I'd be like, why did the record label not release that before streaming days? The song is going off. I'm seeing it real time. I'm playing the tune and people are asking to reload it. There's your litmus test, is the people. You don't need to go too far to find that out. And I think that that's kind of empowering, that you don't have to, oh man, I've got to save up money and go to the States and to pop this off. Because then you get the thing where you have a big hit and now you've got to keep it going in the States. And then there's a new guy that comes, or a new girl that comes through with, and you're not the hottest thing anymore. Now you're part of that game. Or would you prefer to be in a smaller fish pond, which you'd say would be the UK, as your base,
amen,
but still go global? You know what I'm
Sure.
saying?
I've been debating with a lot of artists recently about the correlation between good music and numbers. Do you feel like there is a correlation between songs that do big numbers on streaming platforms versus how good a song is? Because sometimes people might be saying, well, this song's good, but it's not doing the numbers, or this song is doing massive numbers, so it must be good. Do you think there's a correlation between the numbers and how good a song is?
It's funny because only when you've got a bit of time under your belt that you actually start to see, for me personally, what defines something being a success. So when I first started off, it would have been like, okay, how many records sold? Like, did it go to number one? So defining it all by all the stats, all the numbers, all the stories. And even the second album, the first album did like 7 million albums, right? Crazy. Second album, Slicker Than Your Average, did 3.5 million albums. And even though that was a lot of records, 3.5 million albums, give that to any artist right now, they're popping bottles tonight. Yeah. I was looking at it like it was like, whoa, this seems like, how are we at 3.5? Like, this must be, this isn't far from a success. This is like half the numbers nearly. You know what I mean? So when you define it by a stat, you're going down a slippery slope, because when you look at success, I look at define it by 20 years later, I can drop a tune and it goes off in one of my shows and everyone can sing the words to that song. That for me defines what real success is. And half of the big tunes that a lot of people go crazy to, they don't know what chart position it went into at the time. I don't know what chart position. Just say You Make Me Wanna, or let's go Usher tunes. I don't want to go with the songs that were the biggest ones, but I want to.
You Don't Have to Call. I don't know. I like that song a lot.
Okay, You Don't Have to Call. I don't know what chart position went in, but you drop it in the club, things going off, yeah. And I feel like once you understand that, and also people don't dance differently to stats. They're not like, oh, you know what, that one did 40 million streams, so I'm gonna move differently to this tune, and that one only did 100,000. Bro, you're going off to the tune.
Yeah.
That's not. And I think that that's really important for people to know, because if you get stuck in that world, and trust me, I've been there before, defining it by numbers, it makes you depressed, because one minute you're really gassed about a song, it doesn't do numbers technically, but people are really enjoying it. And then you kind of dismiss it, and then it's like, oh, 10 years later on, it does do the thing for you. But and I feel like it's just a sad way of making music, that you're worrying about anyone else to tell you what you felt when you made the tune. That's the most important, you know what I'm saying?
Craig, you are an artist who has written a lot of your own material. You co-write the majority of your material if you don't write it yourself. What tips do you have for new songwriters coming in the game that want to sharpen their pen and become good songwriters?
I mean, depending on what type of music you're creating, I feel free to do a style or be eclectic, and don't feel like you have to follow suit as to what's going on, because we all know the ones that just did it differently, and then all of a sudden everyone's all on them like a year later. Oh yeah, we always knew you were we know those ones. But then also when it comes to actually the penmanship, just as a songwriter who's kind of been in it for a minute, is that you just want to land the sentiment of what you're trying to say. So it doesn't have to be that it's always romantic. It doesn't have to be like it's always kind of lovey-dovey, or it's like an R&B has to be that. You can speak your truth. But I'd say speak your truth in the way that lands with the people you're talking to. And also it's much better if you actually are really genuinely experiencing the thing you're talking about, or at least you've got some reason for you talking about that thing, that when someone sits down with you and says, okay, so talk to me, tell me about this. Where's this coming from? That it lands. I think that's the most important thing, because otherwise people can tell when someone's saying one thing, but it's not actually landing the right way. And I'm a melody man, so I'm happy to be like, at the end of the session and say, this ain't good enough, and we've got to go again. I'm not one of those ones, well, no, but we finished it now, so we got to put it out. So, no, it's just not good enough, is it? I mean, is it as good as your favorite tune? And when it starts to get into that world, then you say, okay, cool, then we can. That's it, you know what I mean?
22
Brilliant.
is the 8th album, which is out now. What's in store for the next 10 years, man?
Brother, if I can continue to make music in the way I'm making music, I actually brought a book out at the same time called What's Your Vibe, as something to give context to a lot of the questions we were speaking about today. It gets under the hood of stuff, which I feel makes, even if you went into the songs necessarily, let's just look at it from an artist who you don't know who they are. They've come out with something, they're talking about some book. If there was a manual of someone who has been in it for 22 years, who has sold records, who does know what it's like to come from the UK to go to America, who is mixed race and came from Southampton, who can also get under the hood of racism and depression and mental health and talk about those things too. I'd say that we're in an important part in life where we need to have these kind of discussions that you're having, which I think is great, my man. Have heated debates if they need to get heated, because if it lands somewhere that people can decipher and come with something from it, then that was a good discussion. Because if we don't talk, it's just all it's all nonsense. You know what I mean? We got to get under there. Let's talk, talk the talk, and then people can learn from it. And that's what we want, right? You know what I'm saying, bro?
Straight up. Stay being a role model, man, because there's few of them out there, man. And you've definitely been a role model for a lot of artists, man. A lot of people in this UK industry. You've kept it nice and squeaky and clean, and we love you for that, Craig. 8th album, 22, is out now. Until next time, Craig, big up, man.
Brother, love and appreciate to you, man. Like, you've been in this for a minute too, right? And you're making people see that there's two sides to a conversation. You're getting the right people. You're having these conversations. You're playing the music. So love to you, because we're all in this together. You know what I'm saying? We all got our roles and we're vibing. So God bless you, my man.
SK Vibemaker.